The first weekend of the semifinals is in the books. You can now take out a Sharpie and write in those going to the CrossFit Games. While there were some mainstays on top of the leaderboard, others fought their way in. All that and more coming up next on Game Central. What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Game Central. Derek Forrest joined by Neil Maddox as we break down day 3 at the Torian Pro, and we now know our first group of people who are headed to the CrossFit Games down in Madison. Neil, talk about what it's like to qualify for the Games, and then just really quickly break down day 3.
I mean, it's a special moment to qualify for the Games because you trained all year long for this moment. So I'm really proud of the athletes who have qualified for the Games and can't wait to see them compete.
All right, we're going to talk about the individuals here in a second. Day 3 of the individual competition is presented by FitAid, the official recovery beverage of the CrossFit Games. So let's take a look at what went down at the Torian Pro on the final day. 2 events, event 6, Move It or Lose It version 3. And really the big implement here was the sled pull. That was the big separator for a lot of people in that event. And then event 7, final, that was a sprint event. And what better way to end the semifinals or any competition really than to have a sprint event. So let's head out to Australia. Jeremy Austin and Pip Malone had the call all weekend, and they break down day 3 of the men's competition.
An incredible finish to day 3 action here at Pat Rafter Arena for the Torian Pro, the Oceania semi-final. Royce Dunne taking the win, very close back to Jay Crouch. And I'll tell you what, Pip, that third place wasn't sewn up until the very last event.
No, it wasn't, because it was between James Newbury and Bayden Brown coming into the final. Both of them needed something special, but it was Bayden Brown that made it happen in the final, came away with the win, and now he's going to the CrossFit Games.
Once again for Bayden Brown, a wonderful weekend right here. We can't wait for our Oceania qualifiers to head over to the CrossFit Games later this year.
Thanks a lot, guys. Let's take a look at the overall standings, and we had a battle for 1, 2, and 3 out in Australia. Royce Dunne grabs the top spot over Jay Crouch, and then Bayden Brown able to hold off James Newbury to hold on for the 3rd spot and get himself into the Games. Let's talk about Royce Dunne, though. Finished 2nd and 3rd on the final day to take the top spot. What did you like out of his performance, Neil?
What really impressed me was event 6. This is where he made his move. He was 4th coming off the bike, 1st off the burpees, and then he was neck to neck with Bayden Brown. Bayden Brown slightly edged him out, but that 2nd place finish propelled him to the top, and then he never looked back.
So when you look at Bayden Brown on the final day, able to knock out back-to-back victories to hold off James Newbury, how was he able to do it, Neil?
Well, it came down to event 6 where he edged out Royce Dunne on that sled pull, but going into event 7, he was battling with James Newbury. And believe it or not, James Newbury in the 1st round got off the pull-up bar before Bayden Brown, but yet Bayden Brown kept his composure, was a smooth creeper, stood steady on those thrusters, and believe it or not, surpassed Newbury to take the event win and surpassed everybody to place himself on the podium, took 3rd, and headed to the Games.
Yeah, and it was a good moment to see Bayden Brown on the podium with his son, Boston. That was a cute moment. Now on to the women's side of things. No surprise to see Cara Saunders on top of the leaderboard. She just ran away with things to take the top spot. Laura Clifton, though, and Ellie Turner able to knock off some notable Games athletes to take 2nd and 3rd. And that was a battle on the final day, Neil. So Laura Clifton and Ellie Turner, a great battle for 2nd and 3rd, able to qualify for the Games. How were they able to do it, Neil?
Well, Laura Clifton really held on in event 6. She actually got off the skier and was a little bit behind the pack, got onto those burpees, was smooth and efficient, but when she got to that sled, she just outpulled the whole field to take that event win. And then if we go on the other side of things and we look at Ellie Turner, same thing happened with Ellie Turner. She was very competitive in event 6, but when it went to event 7, all she had to do was stay within the top 5 to qualify, and that's exactly what she did.
On the team side of things, as eventful as the individuals were, the team competition might have been the most exciting. 6'4" Army Gold takes the top spot in a tie with Urban, but 6'4" Army Gold grabs the top spot because they had more 1st place event wins. And then Awaside was in a 3-way tie going into day 3 with Reebok CrossFit Frankston and 6'4" Army Steel. They were able to qualify as well. Talk about what we saw out of Awaside and how were they able to pull it off and to hold off the other 2.
Well, Awaside had a common theme all weekend long. They just liked to win the first event. On day 1, they won the first event. On day 2, they won the first event. And on day 3, they had to close it out by hitting a home run and winning the first event. And how did they do it? They did it on the worm with some great teamwork, some great communication, and that led the way for them qualifying for the games.
Yeah, Awaside, they finished 1st and 4th on day 3 in order to grab that 3rd spot. But the team competition is sponsored by ROMWOD. Improve your mobility and athletic performance with ROMWOD. Visit ROMWOD.com for a 7-day free trial. Neil, before we get out of here, I want to ask you, what was your favorite moment out of the weekend?
Oh man, my favorite moment out of the weekend had to come down to the clean and jerk ladder. I just saw how much that house was pumping, with how excited the crowd was, and that's just making me excited because I know leading into the CrossFit Games, we're going to have a live crowd, and the excitement is just going to carry over to there.
Yeah, and we're going to have live competition at the CrossFit Games in July. Congratulations to everybody at the Torian Pro who will be headed to Madison, Wisconsin. Neil, I want to thank you for doing this, but coming up next, China Cho, she's going to join me as we break down the final day at the Mid-Atlantic CrossFit Challenge. All right, welcome back into Game Central. Joining me now is China Cho as we break down day 3 of the Mid-Atlantic CrossFit Challenge, and we have more people going to the CrossFit Games at the end of July. China, as an athlete, what is it like knowing that you've qualified for the Games?
So exciting. Whether it's your 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 10th time, it never gets old.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the individual competition here in a second, but day 3 of the individual competition is presented by FitAid. For a special offer and to learn more, visit drinkfitaid.com. So let's take a look at the events taking place at the Mid-Atlantic CrossFit Challenge on day 3. And you got to give credit to whoever named the events for this one, because you have an ode to Harry Potter here with the Tri-Wizard Cup in event 5 and then event 6. Whether or not you're a God of War fan or Greek mythology, you have Karatos in event 6. But we want to send it out to Knoxville, as where Sean Woodland and Tommy Marquez had the call, and they break down the men's competition.
Thank you, Derek. 3 days of competition have come to a close here at the Mid-Atlantic CrossFit Challenge, and on the men's side, full of surprises.
Yeah, a ton of chaos on the leaderboard. Some new names showing up in a big way. Some old names kind of fading towards the back. Really, the excitement of the cut lines is what we were hoping for in this new format, and it absolutely delivered.
Overall standings after 3 days of competition and 6 events for the men. Jayson Hopper and Zach Watts, more on them in a second, join some very familiar names inside the top 5. Tyler Eggeman, Angelo DeChico, and Hunter Holyfield will be advancing to the last chance qualifier. Ben Smith had some late heroics. It wasn't enough. His season comes to a close. And Sam Kwan, the man who was 2nd at the CrossFit Games last year, his season is over.
He really was the surprise story of 2020, but another surprise this season means that his season is over before we even get to the games. Had a couple of top 10 finishes to start the weekend, but really that was the best we got from him to close the competition. A 19th place finish, a 22nd place finish, and then an 18th place finish. Just never seemed like he could get some momentum, didn't have that top end gear that we saw at the games in Aromas, and now his season is over well before he anticipated.
People expected Sam Kwan to be in the top 5. They did not expect Zach Watts to finish 5th.
A 310 snatch to open, you have my curiosity, but then fighting off a couple of game athletes to secure your first invite to the CrossFit Games, now you have my attention, Sean. Congratulations to Zach Watts.
And nobody saw this coming. Jayson Hopper from out of nowhere to win the Mid-Atlantic CrossFit Challenge and head to the games for the first time in his career.
The collective men's field just got a right hook to the jaw. Wondering where that came from the back row. Jayson Hopper, 19th place worldwide in the open. First time showing up at this stage of the competition. He's 1 for 1. He's won every single competition qualifying for the CrossFit Games that he's been in at this level. So far, so good for the former Clemson wide receiver. 3 event wins across the weekend, outdueling Painchik, Medeiros, Mayer, Smith, a who's who of CrossFit athletes. He is certainly riding high.
The bottom line is, if you came into the Mid-Atlantic CrossFit Challenge looking for clarity on the men's side, you certainly did not get it.
Nothing wrong with a little parity, Sean. It's the exact opposite of what we've been used to for really the last decade, and now it is wide open as far as who can potentially inherit the throne now on the men's side of the CrossFit Games. It just gets you riled up for what we're going to get the remaining 3 weeks, and looking forward to Madison.
The semifinals are off to a very exciting start. Can't wait to see the rest of the action. Let's send it back to Derek Forrest in the studio.
So yeah, really an unknown going into the weekend, and Jayson Hopper ends up taking first place and going to the CrossFit Games for the first time. He finished 8th or better throughout the weekend. What'd you like about his performance?
I mean, in a very stacked field with guys like Scott Panchek, Travis Mayer, a previous champion in Ben Smith, he had 3 event wins. That's winning 50% of the events for the weekend. I mean, he has a great engine, he's extremely strong, and the thing that really impressed me with him today was on event 5, after winning the event, he just casually walks across the finish line. Everyone else was laid out on the floor, gasping for air, hurting, and he just looked composed and great, and like it didn't even faze him at all. It was awesome.
All right, and while we had an unknown going into the weekend take the top spot and head to the CrossFit Games, we also had a race for the 5th spot, and that was Angelo DiCicco and Zach Watts. Zach Watts gets the 5 spot. Just talk about where he excelled this weekend and how he was able to get there.
I mean, after having a somewhat rough day 2, you know, not finishing inside the top 20 on that 4th event, he really came back on events 5 and 6 and kept his head in the game. It's not over until it's over. And on event 6, when it really mattered, he went touch and go on those snatches, and that kept him in 5th place, and now he's going to the CrossFit Games.
All right, on the women's side of things, no surprise coming out of the Mid-Atlantic CrossFit Challenge. Tia-Clair Toomey takes the top spot. Haley Adams in 2nd, Brooke Wells 3rd, Amanda Barnhart 4th, Jessica Griffith rounds it out in terms of girls who are going to the CrossFit Games, but it was Tia-Clair Toomey once again showing how dominant she was. Just talk about her dominance, and again, she's proving that she is the female to beat.
Yes, she had top 3 finishes all weekend. And as a 4-time champ, you have an extra large target on your back, so you have to work so hard to stay on top. Well, whatever she's doing is working because she is way up here.
Yeah, no kidding. But just like the men, there was a race for 5th. Christine Kolenbrander and Jessica Griffith had to battle it out to get into that 5th spot. Fee Sagafi also in that race, but it was Jessica Griffith going to the Games.
I mean, it's a hard spot to be in, you know, when you're on the outside looking in, trying to get into that top 5 spot. I think that Christine might have been able to take a little bit more risks on that final workout since, you know, she's already in 6. You can't really go anywhere but up from there. But when it really came down to it, it was the race between Fee and Jessica that really mattered. Jessica edging Fee out by just 1/10 of a second is what kept her in that 5th place spot.
And all the changes we had on the individual side between the men and the women, no change with the teams. CrossFit Mayhem Freedom, they take the top spot, no surprise there. 1 through 5 pretty much stayed 1 through 5 all weekend long. Lone Star CrossFit, CrossFit West Chase, Training Think Tank, and On Track, all in the top 5 heading to the Games. But it's really all about CrossFit Mayhem Freedom. They exert their dominance once again. They look like the team to beat when they get to Madison. Where do they go from here as they prepare?
Well, I think Rich wants to be perfect. I mean, they didn't win every event, and that's a goal that he is going to strive for, I'm sure, at the CrossFit Games, and other teams should be worried that he wants to be perfect. Not to mention, he also has Haley to train with. She is young, she is on fire, and she's hungry to be on the podium this year, so that's only going to elevate their training together. And like I said before, people should be worried.
So the team competition is sponsored by ROMWOD. Improve your mobility and athletic performance with ROMWOD. Visit romwod.com for a 7-day free trial. So with the competition in the books at the Mid-Atlantic CrossFit Challenge, just talk about your favorite moment from the weekend, China.
Well, I can't just pick one. I actually have 2 favorite moments. So Haley hitting 185 on her snatch, which is a PR for her, was so exciting and so awesome to watch, because I remember in 2019 when she couldn't lift that first bar in the clean ladder, and I know that she's been working extra hard on her strength, and to see it pay off in such a big situation was awesome to watch. And then my second favorite moment was Zach Watts qualifying for his first CrossFit Games. I know that he's tried for years and years and years to make it, and he didn't get discouraged. He kept pushing, and he finally made it to the games. I know what that feels like. I've been in the position of not making it year after year after year, and the feeling of finally making it or finally making it back to the games is unlike any other. Congratulations to Zach, because that is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, Zach's a great guy, and once again, congratulations to Zach. But speaking of going to the games, I want to remind everyone that tickets are still available for the 2021 NOBULL CrossFit Games down in Madison. Don't forget to go to games.crossfit.com to pick up your tickets. And speaking of tickets, tickets still available for those regional events starting next week. That is Fittest in Cape Town and the Granite Games down in Minnesota. Also, in week 4, you have the West Coast Classic starting on June 18th. Tickets still available. Don't forget to visit those individual websites to purchase those tickets. But that will do it for us. China, I want to thank you for hopping in and doing this with me.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Next week, it will be Sean Woodland who will be joining the show once again, and he'll have a recap from the Granite Games and the Fittest in Cape Town.